As most of us know by now, the House has approved the debt deal to avoid default. The Senate will vote today. And on the live line with us right now, Congressman Tim Griffin is joining us with his thoughts on the debt agreement. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
We appreciate you doing this. Well, what do you think of how the final vote turned out in the House with bipartisan passage, but with Republicans backing the deal more so than the Democrats?
Well, I think that, look, I'm not celebrating this deal. It's not fantastic by any means. It's not even great. But considering the other option, which was a no vote, I thought a yes vote was the best thing to do, because I think it did deal with the debt ceiling uncertainty, but it makes some significant cuts. I am emphasizing to folks that they are in the broader context of our deficit and our debt. The cuts that this deal makes are tiny. They are important, and it is a step toward the goal. But none of us should think that this actually deals with our debt problem. This is one baby step, and we have a long way to go. And, I hate to say it, but we're going to have a lot more battles because it took a long time to get in this mess, and it's going to take a long time to get out, particularly if we're moving just these little baby steps every time.
Congressman, I know one of the things that a lot of our listeners have been asking us about this is whether or not, first of all, I guess it's a two-part question, whether Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security will be affected. And then the second part of this is, are we cutting any of the foreign aid? Well,
foreign aid, I'll answer the second one first. We're looking at all foreign aid, and we did that in the budget, the authorization that we passed out of the Foreign Affairs Committee the other day. I think there's some stuff in there that people who are concerned about foreign aid will like. But I've said this before. I just want to put this in context. Yes, we're looking at all the foreign aid, and I think that foreign aid will be cut. But let's be real clear. Foreign aid is less than 2% of the budget. Yes, we need to look at it, but it ain't going to balance. We're not going to balance the budget by dealing with foreign aid. Foreign aid is a tiny part of the budget. So, yes, let's look at it. But it's not going to do it. What is going to be cut as a part of this? Well, definitely the entitlements are going to be looked at. But I can tell you, based on the numbers I've seen, the type of reforms that need to occur to Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security to save them, not to get rid of them, to save them for future generations. This does not contemplate the big, bold reforms that are going to have to happen. So will this deal with some of those? Yes. Which specific ones, we'll have to see. It depends on what the panel comes up with. But what I tell folks is, if you're comparing the way things are now to this reform plan or that reform plan, that's a false choice, because the way things are now are going away. So I just heard Joseph Lieberman, former Democrat, now an independent. He was on CNBC this morning, and he said, we cannot, and this was almost a direct quote, we cannot save Medicare as it currently is. We will have to change it to save it. And it's not just a matter of cuts, it's a matter of doing things differently so that there are more efficiencies. My mom's 70. She's on Medicare and Social Security. I want to save them. But we got to do something different than what we're doing now.
Do you agree with the view that the Republicans came out the victors here, even though you didn't get everything you wanted, especially because the legislation does not raise taxes?
Well, I definitely agree that this is consistent with my principles. It doesn't raise taxes. It allows for a balanced budget amendment vote in the House. in the Senate. Look, these are real cuts. They're not as big as we need to make to get this fixed, but they are real cuts. Now, I can tell you, my friends on the left don't like it, and a lot of my friends on the right don't like it. Although I will tell you, look, Paul Ryan voted for it. Alan West voted for it. A lot of conservatives voted for it. We voted for it because we know that we have divided government, and this was the best deal we were going to get with the way the government is currently configured. So I feel good about it. I don't know if I'd call it a victory. It's not a beautiful piece of legislation. It definitely came out of the sausage factory that is the Congress. So it's not a pretty process, and it's not a pretty piece of legislation. But I do think it is a step in the right direction, and that's why all four of us voted for it. All four congressmen from Arkansas voted for it.
It doesn't necessarily decisively remove the threat that the nation's credit rating could be downgraded.
That's right. And you know what? We got into this mess over a long time, and if we were going to really deal with the debt now, it would take something even bolder than the House budget that we passed. And you know what? We passed that budget, which I thought was a good start, and you had people going absolutely, getting absolutely worked up over that. If we truly wanted to deal with the problem that we've created, it would take far more bold steps than this president's going to allow. And I'm happy to vote for something extraordinarily bold to fix this. But that was never going to be a possibility with this Senate and this president. And so this is a baby step. I just want to make sure folks know that this does not solve the debt problem.
All right. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Congressman Tim Griffin with his thoughts on the debt agreement. KRN News time is 8:20. We check traffic on the 9s, and Kevin Miller is watching traffic.